So the Industrial Revolution, it begins in Great Britain, but Britain's competitors, the United States, France, Prussia, Russia, they're going to see this and they're going to try to emulate it as well. So the red, so Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England, the United Kingdom, this is where it begins. And then you can see France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany, what will eventually be Germany. These places will, in Switzerland, they will adopt it next. Then it will go out to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Russia, Austria-Hungary, Italy. Notice Portugal and Spain do not really take on industrialization right away. They don't need to because, for one thing, Spain still has its colonies in Central and South America, as does Portugal. However, in the mid 1800s, they're going to lose access to those. They're going to become independent. And so this is going to be one of the reasons why Spain will lag behind the rest of Europe. The Ottoman Empire, same thing. It doesn't need to industrialize because it's an old empire. It has strategic locations. It's still important to trade, and most of the money that it makes is off of taxation. So industrialization has social, political, and economic effects on Western Europe and the world. The expectation for this is that you should be able to describe how industrialization spread from England through Europe and then into the rest of the world. So industrialization, it improves Great Britain's economy. It increases the amount of goods that are produced. It raises workers' productivity, meaning that the quantity of goods and services that are produced from each unit of labor input, it goes up. It improves the standard of living for many people. Now this is a relative term. You have to understand that cities in England were pretty nasty places because they burned coal, so there's coal ash everywhere. There's widespread asthma. It's not that when it says standard of living, people are eating better, they're living longer than say people in Russia, but by our standards, this is not much of an improvement. Taxation was a way for the English government to bring in money and then use that money to do things like build the canals, pay for the railroads, things like that. Now, other nations are going to notice what's going on in England and they're going to seek to emulate what happens. So, Belgium, it's located across the English Channel from Great Britain. It was the second country that industrializes. And it borrowed the techniques and the technology from Britain, and it started with the mechanization of textiles. So it goes from the United Kingdom to Belgium. So industrialization followed a different pattern focused on coal and iron ore. So it improved iron making, improved the iron making process, Belgium did, and then it produced machinery, locomotives, ships, and weapons. And later it would be known for chemicals, synthetics, and medicine. This is Belgium still. France is the next to industrialize. They're going to use British equipment. They're going to actually import it. They're going to bring over engineers and entrepreneurs from Great Britain to France. They're going to begin to produce textiles and machinery of their own. The thing of it is France does not have a lot of access to coal, so it has to rely mainly on water power. Louis Pasteur, he's a French chemist and microbiologist, and he discovers that bacteria are what cause disease and fermentation. And he creates pasteurization, and this saves the beer, wine, and the silk industry. And he helps invent vaccines against anthrax and rabies. Super important guy. So the Industrial Revolution, as we stated, begins in Britain in the 1700s. And then if you look at this, it's what percentage of British people were living in large cities by 1870. So it's 20% or more. So it's still small compared to what it's going to be, but it's, you know, if you look at France and it's the other contemporaries, Great Britain has, which is like Germany, Luxembourg, Belgium, they're at 6 to 10%. So they have twice as many people living in cities. And then if you look at other areas, Portugal to the Russian Empire, they have 5% or fewer of its population are living in cities. So this means that Ireland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Portugal, Spain, Italy, all the rest here, that these are still primarily agrarian countries. So the United States, it its industrialization was dependent on water, and it was mainly in the Northeast, so Massachusetts, that area. Um, it had textile mills over in New England. Cotton would come in from the American South, and New England factories also became known for their metalwork. They made guns specifically. So the invention that makes all of this actually happen in the United States is the cotton gin, invented by Eli Whitney. So it greatly increased the speed of cleaning cotton. Cotton has naturally pointy seeds in them, and prior to the cotton gin, uh, slaves would by hand pick out these seeds. It's very arduous work. And then the cotton gin, all you need is someone feeding the cotton in and someone turning the crank. The seeds come on the bottom and the cleaned cotton comes off the side. So this leads to a huge expansion in cotton growth in the American South, which also meant that there was an accompanying growth in slavery in the South as well. Next is the Bessemer process. This is an inexpensive method for converting iron into steel, and you do this by removing carbon from the iron. Now, steel is not a new thing. The Chinese invented it thousands of years ago. It's what happens with the Bessemer process is you take what could be produced in small amounts to something that can be created in much larger amounts. And steel is stronger than iron. The other thing is the Bessemer process is going to make it possible to build skyscrapers. And this is important for cities because as more and more people move into the cities, you can't continue to grow outward. You have to grow vertically. And so skyscrapers are going to be built, and you need steel. Germany is the next country. They start to industrialize later than other countries. So in 1834, the German states they joined to create a free trade zone. This doesn't mean they created their own country. That's not true. What they've done is the different principalities of the German Confederation, they allow free trade, meaning there's no tax on goods coming from like Bavaria to Berlin. And so this makes doing business in Germany between German states more profitable. And it's going to establish itself as a leader in heavy industry. So they're going to create large steel plants, large chemical plants, and they can do this because Germany has access to iron and to coal. By 1914, Germany is second in the world in industrial power to Great Britain. So some Germans to know are Carl Benz. He invents the gasoline-powered automobile. For a lot of Americans, they think it's Henry Ford. I have no idea why, but it's Carl Benz. And this is what he created in 1885. So you've got the gasoline-powered engine in the back. Notice it's a trike. And then you've got Gottlieb Daimler. He invents the first high-speed gas engine. And he also creates the first four-wheeled automobile. If you notice, this is a bike. A powered bike, no less. So the green areas are the major industrialized areas of Europe. Notice it's northern England, in Scotland at Glasgow, and then at Birmingham. Okay, Paris, all of this is called Flanders, but it's Belgium. Milan, Lyon, north of Vienna, Bohemia, Saxony. Nothing's going really on at all here in Austria-Hungary, in Russia, Ottoman Empire, Italy. There are also railroads being built, but look at the difference. Look at how connected England is, Great Britain is, compared to the German Confederation or France or Austria-Hungary. Now Japan. Japan is going to be a country that for about 300 years kept itself isolated from any outsiders. However, in 1854, the United States sends in what's called the Black Fleet, and they threaten Japan and they force it to open up. And this increased contact forces Japan to either modernize, or it can see that it's going to face the same problems that China has, which is that there will be attempts by foreign powers to take it over. So there's a process in which the emperor, not the shogun, is in control, and this is called the Meiji Restoration. It happens in 1868. Now, this new government is going to follow a course of modernization. So they're going to mechanize the silk weaving industry. They're going to build railroads and ships. And Japan's industry is controlled by these powerful families called zaibatsus. So, like Sony, you've heard of Sony, I'm sure, or Mitsubishi, they're zaibatsus. These are family controlled monopolies. They don't just build one thing, though. It's just that by monopoly means they control all aspects of its production. So, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Suzuki. As a result of this rapid growth in industrialization, Japan is going to need access to resources. That means it's going to invade and take over Korea, and then it will eventually invade and take over. It's at the time it's called Manchukuo, but it's Manchuria. This area was actually under the control of, or the sphere of influence of Russia, and Japan and Russia will actually go to war with each other. So as I said, Japan has few natural resources. It gains economic dominance in Asia, and it does this because Manchuria and Korea have what it needs, which is coal and iron. And that is section 3.